Masking fluid is a liquid latex. You paint it onto watercolour paper, you allow it to dry, then you paint over the top of it, and when the paint has dried you then remove the masking fluid and it will go back to the white of the paper. The masking fluid that I use is a blue colour. It's actually called the blue stuff, and it's much more liquid than the usual masking fluid. Because it dries very, very quickly and it's water resistant when it is dry, it does tend to ruin brushes. So if you have a masking fluid brush, wet the brush first, then with a bar of soap, wipe your brush over the soap. And this forms a barrier between the masking fluid and the hair of the brush. Then you dip it into your masking fluid and apply it to the paper. So I'm just masking off some daisies. There's the centre, and a few stems and leaves in there. Then when you wash the brush out, all the masking fluid comes out of the brush because of the soap. Unfortunately, if the masking fluid does dry on your brush, there is only one way to remove the masking fluid, and that is with lighter fluid. So you get some lighter fluid, put it into the palm of your hand, work the brush into the lighter fluid. This will soften the masking fluid, and then you can just peel it out of the brush and then wash it in soapy water. There are one or two things that you have to bear in mind when using masking fluid. Sometimes the masking fluid dries hard onto your paper, and when you try to remove it, it just tears the surface of the paper. This generally happens if you put masking fluid onto a watercolour paper which is slightly damp. It means that the masking fluid just seeps into the paper and gets caught up in the fibres. When it dries, it then sticks to the fibres, and when you rub off the masking fluid, it just pulls the paper off the surface. So always put masking fluid onto a nice clean dry surface. Moving back to the daisies that I prepared earlier, I'm just going to put a couple of washes of colour. To start with some blue. Just bring that down over the top of the masked flowers. Change the colour. Some country olive. Just bring that down. Maybe just a shade darker into there, into the wet. So this is wet into wet. Then we just allow the paint to dry completely. Once the paint has dried, you can then remove the masking fluid just using your fingers. So you rub with clean, dry hands, peel off the masking fluid, goes back to the white of the paper. Then with a medium detail brush, just paint in the centre of the flowers. Some green, just a very, very pale light green, and just wash that over the grasses and the stems. With some burnt sienna, just touch that into the flower head. And there we have some daisies. If you're painting grasses, an interesting way of applying masking fluid is with a pen called a ruling pen, sometimes called a draftsman's pen or a drawing office pen, bow pen. You know, they call it anything you like, but it's a ruling pen, and it's an adjustable pen, and you can rotate the nut on the top, and that will open and close the points. So you just open it up so there's just a small gap. Don't want it too wide. Then with the masking fluid, you dip the pen into the masking fluid. and the masking fluid just sits between the 2 points, and when you draw it over the surface of some paper, the masking fluid just comes out between the 2 points. So you can draw these long, fine grasses with masking fluid. Wash the pen out, then simply allow this to dry off. Just test to see if the masking fluid is dry. If it's still wet and you put your brush over the top of the masking fluid will go into your brush and probably dry and ruin your brush. So just make sure it's dry. Then with some country olive, paint over the top of the masking fluid. So wash the colour over the grasses. Just extend the grasses like that. Allow that to dry, then rub the masking fluid off, and then we have some grasses. So it's gone back to the white of the paper with a pale green. This is sunlit green. Just wash that light colour over the green background. Then we have light on dark grasses. Another way of applying masking fluid is with a natural sponge. I've just dipped this into water, squeezed all the excess water out of the sponge so it's a damp sponge. Then you get a saucer, tip some masking fluid into the saucer, dunk the sponge, just let it soak in, and then you can very gently tap the sponge onto the surface so you get maybe some spray from a wave. So let's just turn this into some spray. So just lightly pat the sponge onto the surface so you get a lovely texture. And with your brush, just flick like that. Once the masking fluid is dry, put a light colour on the rock first and just paint over the top of some of the masking fluid. This is ultramarine and burnt umber. Put that colour over the top of the first colour, and you just scrape away so you get some texture. Paint the sea in the background. Just bring that down. Then we allow the paint to dry off completely. There's the white foam from the wave hitting the rock. Cobalt blue, just put a little bit of shade into the breaking wave, just a bit underneath there. Then with some midnight green and ultramarine, just finish off a few ripples in the water. And there we have a breaking wave.